All right, Exodus 27, let's call this one always, because even though the ESV does not say it, always is going to describe at least one of the lamps. I think it is really the only lamp, that golden lampstand that is to be kept burning in the tabernacle. Beginning at verse 20 of chapter 27, it's going to say, you shall command the people of Israel that they bring you pure beaten olive oil for the light, that a lamp may regularly be set up to burn. And where I have regularly in the ESV, other translations have always. Verse 21, in the tent of meeting outside the veil that is before the testimony, Aaron and his son shall tend it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever to be observed throughout their generations by the people of Israel. And it is important to note that that lamp, if it is in fact the golden lampstand, and please comment below if you know differently, because I am still working my way through all the different elements, because this is a really complicated part of Scripture, so we can work through this together. But if you know differently, it is interesting to note that this might actually be the same lampstand that was designed back in chapter 25, where it talks about almonds are to be worked into the design. Why almonds? Well, that provoked me to go look it up and find out that almonds, at least in Israel, are typically considered to be the first tree to blossom. But what someone said is it is also the last to produce fruit. And if you have ever tried to offer up prayers to God and fight off the temptation to be impatient, then you can understand what it's like to have something blossom in your heart, but cause you to wait for prolonged periods of time that might drag you into a place of doubt, a sense of futility, and wanting to give up. Well, when he is working into this lampstand, this fixture in the tabernacle, an ode to a tree, a fixture in their lives that reminds them of things that can blossom early but produce fruit late. Sometimes it can be an indication of the way that he is working in the lives of his people and his believers. Hopefully, when it says that that lamp is to be kept burning always, it is an indication to us that when we are legitimately understanding, and it's important to understand his will, because we can pray for all sorts of things that he's never going to answer. He's not going to answer. I don't even have to go down the list of prayers of things he is not willing to do. Most of this book is devoted to helping to guide you in a common sense understanding of things God just ain't going to do. But to the degree that you have committed yourself to understanding the things that he is willing to do in your life, one of the things he promises that we should, is that we should pray without ceasing. And that's a whole complex study to itself, but that is what this passage reminds me of, is that New Testament encouragement to pray without ceasing, to keep that light burning always. Why? Because there are people who have had to wait for long periods of time for things that they thought they would never see, but that had blossomed in their heart early on. Oh, wait a minute. We've already studied that this entire nation comes out of a 90-plus-year-old man who had a first child, or at least the first child of promise, late in life after his wife gave up hope on ever being able to have that child. And so when this entire nation is brought out of that story and then told to build a tabernacle, well, God will dwell with them in a place where the lamp is designed like an almond branch, then maybe he's reminding us that sometimes the wait, even though it is long, it is worth it. Why? Not just for us, because probably there are times when it would be best for us for him to just get us a quick answer to our prayers. But see, in the life of a person like Abraham, once again, we've studied a story that is encouraging people for thousands of years going now. And so even though that man had to suffer as he waited for the fulfillment of that thing that blossomed early in his heart, his story lives on as encouragement to all of us who often want to quit during our time of waiting. And likewise, if we are in the image and the footsteps of Christ, we realize that he has a cross to bear, but simply giving lip service to thanks is idle worship. He has called us to pick up our cross and bear ours as well. And sometimes our cross involves a long, discouraging wait, so that we can not simply be an example for ourselves of how tough we were during the process and how we didn't quit, but so that we can likewise encourage others who have to wait for long, protracted periods of time for things that they deeply desire that are in line with God's will. So as we say, so that we are not waiting in vain, it is so important to understand how to offer up prayers within his will. And so that is why we often say God's best to you as you go forward in him.